Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Thank you, Giovanna. Hello, and welcome to the press conference from BROKEBACK Mountain. And I will immediately introduce the people who are here at this podium, starting with the gentleman sitting at my left. He's the co-writer.
No.
You're not a co-writer?
No.
Okay, he's involved in it. He is the producer, Mr. James Seamus. For a film that is about two men, the women have surprising strength throughout the movie. All the women's parts are really strong, even if they're not on screen all the time. So I'll start by introducing the women, the ladies, at this podium. As Jack Twist's wife, Florine, Anne Hathaway. Sitting next to her as the suffering Alma, Michelle Williams. And the central couple, so to speak. Next to Michelle, he is definitely to the manner born. His father, Stephen, is director and one of most highly regarded in the business. His mother is a script writer, Naomi Foner, and one of the best in the business. His sister is also an actress, Maggie, and one of the most intriguing in the business. He's not too shabby himself, Jake Gyllenhaal. And sitting next to him, he comes from Australia, but you wouldn't know if you missed his very first film, because he's been able to play so many nationalities in so many accents that he is definitely an international actor, Mr. Heath Ledger. And there's one person missing, of course, and that's the director, Ang Lee. And I think...
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a phone call from him. He's running a little late today, and so I expect a phone call from him any minute, and we'll get an update from him on what's up. So sorry about that.
Okay.
Can we not have the flash?
What?
He doesn't like that movie.
No,
Yeah, okay, guys, would you crash down? No, but thank you. All right, and just to get that question out of the way, Jake, the question goes to Jake and Heath. Jake, is Heath a good kisser? Heath, is Jake a good kisser?
Oh, thank you. Who is this?
I have one.
Hang, where the hell are you? It's
Hello?
yeah, it's 2:10 here, man. Where are you? Can you just get?
I can't hear very well.
Oh, okay. Would you like to talk to the people that you're stiffing at the press conference here and tell them something? Because you're not here. Hold on one second. Here they are. Guys, this is Ang Lee. Ang, what's going on?
Everyone, my heart is with you. I just want to apologize that this morning I arrived, actually yesterday for you, and when I just arrived at the hotel, I was told I have to come back. I just got off the stage from getting the Golden Lion, so I want to share the joy with everybody. With you.
Ang, if you think that's an excuse, all right, we'll take it. Congratulations.
With the suit I brought for Toronto, that's one of my favorite festivals. Great screening, great people, great audience, and I just miss you. I feel bad coming here, but Golden Lion is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ang, man. Have a safe flight back. I know you're coming right back.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye. All right, have a Bellini for me.
Give a big hug to everyone, and thank you.
All right, talk to you later, man. Congratulations. Woo! It was the Venice Film Festival, so it could have been 2 hours later when we actually got the award. But we are really apologetic. He really meant it. He landed here yesterday. He got to the hotel. We sat him down. We said, "Get back on the plane. There's a reason for it." He didn't want to go. He just said, Toronto really is the place I want to be right now with everybody from the film and to be with the audience here. This is really the place where he loves to watch, not just other people's movies, but even his movies. And I told him to get the fuck back on the bus. And go pick that up. He will be joining us back here in Toronto tomorrow. So he's no rest for the weary. So that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, guys.
Congrats all around.
How can you follow that up?
I was hearing something about kissing.
Good one, James.
Everyone was like, golden line, and now I'll answer it with one word, and the word is exfoliate.
I can't remember honestly. I really can't. Yeah, I've got nothing funny to tell you. It wasn't that humorous. It was.
It was work.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did any of you guys have any qualms about taking up that story?
No. Fuck. Look, first and foremost, when we read the script, it was one of the most beautiful screenplays we'd ever read. It was a story of love, which and I'm sure we'd all agree, a story of love which hadn't been told, and it's really refreshing to come across something like that. I think I'd read certainly in books and seen movies based around love, and I feel like it's also stale, and I feel like they're all repeating themselves, and it's all being recycled, and this felt like something very new, and it felt like something that hadn't been done, and so no, it was just very exciting. Of course, we're nervous, but that's also what makes it exciting, is facing a challenge.
I also think I had read or had been introduced to the material like years before Aang had attached himself to direct the movie, and had heard about it just in simple terms as the gay cowboy movie, and I just thought, I immediately kind of reacted against that, and then as soon as I knew that Aang was involved, I knew that it would be a different type of movie that would go beyond just the confines of I think the easy idea of sexuality, and move towards a kind of a more difficult and like he said, a topic that's become so stale, which is the topic of love in movies, and I knew Aang could
All right, someone take this away.
tackle it. So there was no, I know it sounds weird, there's just no hesitation. There really wasn't, when you have someone who's made movies that deal with, pretty, I think, challenging themes, and has tackled them with a kind of universality and a compassion that Aang has. I think that you throw yourself into the arms of that person, and you trust them, and you feel safe, and you kind of just, you go for it with the hope that, and the belief that it will continue the way his other movies have.
It's also a whole aspect of history that is never dealt with in Westerns, which makes it also very interesting to approach that way, at least. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I think that there's a sort of an icon that you see within Western films that I wouldn't say it deconstructs that whole idea, and I think that I wouldn't call this a Western, I would call it a love story, happened to take place in the West. But I think that the thing that's most interesting actually about the love story that I've discovered after watching it is, I think Heath and I have not to belittle our storyline, but have a pretty straightforward storyline, and it's the women that we have interactions with that actually add and make it the complex story that it becomes, because you see us relate to them, and you see us interact with them, and then you see us come back to each other, and you see their struggles, and it just adds to the kind of like the fourth dimension of the movie that otherwise without them would be I think two-dimensional, or just three-dimensional, or five-dimensional.
Now, quick question to Anne. Anne, you've come to our attention as filmgoers through Princess Diaries, and it's kind of hard to imagine the princess or enchanted Ella turning into Lorene the Libertine.
Well,
was that a relief to have?
I'm expecting 9-year-olds to flock to Brokeback Mountain, but I mean, I never wanted to kind of hit one genre and kind of, well, let's say I've explored in the princess genre as much as I'd like to, but I started doing this at a young age, and I've grown a lot, and now I would just kind of like to be an actor and not play, I don't know, different types of roles. I just want to make movies that I believe are golden. When I read this script, I felt that like I'd struck gold. And you know when you've hit upon truth, and it's very excited. I mean, I think in all of our films, when you try to make something, even if it is more commercial, you try to focus on the truth and put that in the forefront. And it was just very exciting when it could be something this powerful, and that was truthful.
And question to Michelle, and then to the audience, to whoever has the mic here. Reading your sort of filmography, Michelle, there's on the one hand Wim Wenders and Chekhov, on the other hand Dawson Creek. So that's kind of a wide range. Your character in the film, after the initial courtship, is kind of the suffering wife. So it was kind of up to you to give it different nuances and not play one note. How did you go about that?
Did I do that? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, in the first part of your question, I mean, relating to Anne, like, I've also been working a really long time. And
Could you come
oh,
closer?
yeah, I have
Sorry.
to come closer. Oh, God.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just saying I've been working a really long time, and that TV show is something that I got when I was 16. And you sign long contracts, and so that took me 7 years. And but the things that you see that I've done outside of that were just reflect me growing up and things that I was able to do outside of the TV show. So that's why it's sort of varied. As far as the work, how did I imbue it with more than just suffering? I don't know. I don't know that I did. It was just, there were words, and they were beautiful, and there were actors, and they were great, and so I went to work. I don't know what else to say. Everything around me was so prime for the taking that I just tried to show up and listen to everybody else.
I just want to add one Golden Lion thing, and that's Golden Lion. Golden Lion. Sorry, we're a little preoccupied here. We have someone here in the audience who contributed immeasurably to the movie, and I just want to point Golden Lion him out and say Gustavo Santaolalla, our composer, is standing back there, and just please take a bow, because the movie we know and love without his golden composing.
Ma'am?
Hi, how you guys doing over here? Tricia Wilson, Jarrett Rogers Television. I guess it's kind of a question that could apply to all of the actors. Seeing as how in a film like this, the relationship and the chemistry that exists between, of course, your main characters is so critical to the film. How do you work with it, whether it be a male-male relationship, male-female relationship, if there isn't that initial, say, physical attraction right off the bat, how do you create that chemistry?
Golden Lion, Golden Lion. Golden Lion, Golden Lion, Golden Lion.
Yeah, look, I think the chemistry, it was on the page, it was in the words, it was written. We just had to portray it. Jake and I, luckily, have been friends for a while, had known each other. But it was just, we just had to investigate our story and our objectives and believe the love story, and that was really it. It was convincing ourselves, I guess.
I think also what's interesting about the story is that, I think what we knew is that as soon as you consummated the relationship, like intimately, that everything else was imbued thereafter with whatever anybody wanted to imbue it with, and we really did have to just show up. I mean, the relationship between these two characters is one that's like a very deep friendship, and I think that a soulmate, the difference between like a best friend and a soulmate is the difference of like, consummating it or not, and once you see the two of them do it, the friendship that they have together and the things that they share together and the fun that they have with each other is kind of easy, especially, you know, being two straight guys. You know, I think that we have just a chemistry as friends, and then I think that we kind of dove into the love scenes, you know, and dove out as fast, and jumped out as fast as we can, you know. So that was, yeah, and also the writing of Larry McMurtry and Diane Osana, and it just, you know, these scenes were written in the script where there were paragraphs of screen direction telling you as an actor what your character was really actually feeling, because it was the only way we could do it. It's, you know, I remember reading things where it was like, how do you put into action when Jack looks at Ennis that 1,000 rivers flow through him? You know what I mean? But it was a guide. You know, we had a pretty incredible guide through it.
Were you ever tempted to switch roles?
We're planning to do the Broadway show of this, and we'll switch every other night. So get ready. Heath and I both love to sing, so I'm sure. Yeah, Gustavo,
Michelle-
I think.
And Michelle and I are doing the female version of the story as well.
Okay.
Finally, we get to be entertained.
I know when I'm being silly. Thank you. Ma'am, and then the gentleman, and then the lady.
My name is Catalina from World Journal. And since Anne Lee is not going to be here, and I'm going to ask each one of you, how was it working with Anne Lee?
It's gotten to be a big bore for me. In a weird way, it has, just because this is our 9th film working together, and basically, you know, it's become my job is really just to kind of set a stage for him, and really then to let him kind of just flower in it. And this particular stage was, unlike our last movie, which was a full proscenium arch and lots of special effects. This was summer stock. This was really just going out into the mountains with a very small and dedicated crew and actors who really believed in what they were doing, and everybody pitching in. So this is probably the most, I can speak on Aang's behalf on this one, this is probably the most fun we've ever had making a movie in 9 films.
Ladies?
For me, it was initially very nerve-wracking. You know, you're working with a genius, and that's intimidating. But I love Aang as a person, and as a director, he doesn't waste words. So you know what he says is important, and everything he says is important then, so you can trust it, and it's not confusing, and he makes it very clear for you. And I was just able to let go a lot, and really kind of, when he said, "You've got this take," I didn't fight, I didn't argue, I just said, "All right, I'm putting it in your hands." I have a small part, so I kind of figured he would weave me into the story in his own way anyway, so. But it was wonderful. There was a level of trust. I felt very protected.
Michelle?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that he's also a man of few words. Like, I just remember he had like a few faces that he would do for me. He was like, now, and ooh, you know, all these sort of like, it was a very sort of felt experience more than a very verbalized experience. He was just sort of warm and compassionate. He held my hand a lot. That's what I remember the most.
Those were just flashbacks from the Hulk. They come and go. It's a little tick, yeah.
Jake?
Should we go in order?
Do it at the same time.
You want to do this or another? Well, it was really interesting. Yeah, he was a man of very few words. Like, he would say things like, "Do that better," or "That was okay," "It not good," "Kind of sexy." I got very gay. I got once. I remember actually very specifically. I said, "How was that shot?" And he said, "Very gay." So, that was the most, I think emotionally that was the most I got out of it. I was so excited that it was very gay. Yeah, he has a sort of, I think, a type of like I hesitate to say manipulation, you know, but he recognizes the role of the actor and the personality of the actor just in general, and he knows that an actor is a certain type of person. So he plays with that relationship, and he knows that, you know, you're going to want to please him. So, you know, he'll play back and forth on that, and then he recognizes how to do that within the character that you're playing and what the character needs. So, you know, there was a scene where we were like, I was herding 500 sheep on my own. It's not in the movie. Down this hill at sunset with like a horse, and I felt so proud of myself that I had, one, that I was actually riding a horse, and then two, that I was herding 500 sheep. And there were 4 or 5 cameras picking it up, and I remember coming down at the very end, and Aang, I was like so excited, and Aang said, "Kind of sexy," and that was what he said to me. And I said, "Well, let's do it again." He's like, "Let's move on." And then, so my performance really I've described as sort of kind of sexy, the whole just kind of. But like that was, and then the next scene we moved on to, I was eager to please, you know, and I think that he likes to keep that type of relationship with his actors. And he
doesn't like to compliment you too much on your performance. Well, very little, actually. Well, I have to agree with bits and pieces, or pretty much you know, what you all said about Aang. The few words that did escape his mouth were quite often profound and somewhat poetic statements that somehow meant everything and gave you all the information you need to complete your scene or your character or the story. But it was also the manipulation side. In a sense, it was a very lonely experience for me. It was a very lonely film to make. My character was very lonely. So I'm not sure how conscious he was of creating that for me, this environment, but it worked out that way. I'm not sure if he was creating that or if I was creating it, but it became. You know, but he's wonderful in the sense of his attention to detail is microscopic. I think his ability to observe life and on a microscopic level and translate it to story is ingenious, and it was a real honor working with him. Yeah,
I've seen this on so many movies where there's that period of during the casting and the initial before the rehearsals. It's just. It really is like a honeymoon, and then with Aang, and then once the movie starts, it's like after the wedding night, there's no sex with the actors. You know, I mean, that was really kind of.
But the sex is really good when you do have it.
The gentleman, and then the gentleman.
Question for James, and then another question for James and the rest of the cast. First for James, did you have any inclination at Venice that you were, you know, a strong contender for the Golden Lion?
It's really hard. I mean, you folks have seen the movie, and when the credits roll, you just feel like standing up and dancing, right? Because it's just, no, you are really socked out. So it's such an intense emotional experience that it's very difficult to get a read immediately off of your audience. But clearly the reactions out of Venice, it was pretty nearly universal embrace of the film in a very genuine and human way. So we had a sense, and then you never know with film juries and these things, you just have no. That really was, by the way, the call from Aang. He literally had just stepped off the stage in Venice, and we were very anxious to hear from him, so it's been a little.
Is it too soon to think about the possibility that maybe you'll be around for awards at Oscar season?
That's up to you and all your friends. So please tell them.
Question here, and then the lady here, and then the gentleman. Go ahead.
I have 2 questions for Heath, but I wanted to say to Jake before doing that I concur and I agree that the term gay cowboy movie is a wrong thing to do, and I say that having written a column and used that term about 5 or 6 times in the last few months, and after seeing the film, I wrote this morning I'm never going to use that term again because what the film is much larger, much more poignant than a simple little term like that. So I just wanted to.
Apology accepted.
The thing that I wanted to say to Heath, and I thought that the way that you spoke your dialogue throughout the film was, in addition obviously to what you said, but the way you said it was very touching, very, very sad, because you seemed to be always repressing things within, and it was a constant suppression that came out in the way your word. Was that a strategy that you had worked out with either yourself or with Anne or whatever? And I'll tell you the second question after.
Yeah, look, I obviously being Australian, I've had to study a lot of accents, and it's become a shortcut to discovering my character, and certainly discovering this accent was a shortcut into Innes. The stiff upper lip, which actually I got that from looking at a lot of kind of ranch hands in Australia. They have the stiff upper lip, and I always figured it was just to keep flies out of their mouth, you know, spitting like that. And so I stole that. I also used the accent because I had to age. And aging from 20 to 40, it's so subtle, the difference, you know. So I thought the accent would be a good way of doing that, you know, having a higher pitch when younger and gradually getting it deeper and deeper as I got older, instead of having to play too much and overplay the aging process. And what else? I mean, and the voice, yes, it was restrained for that reason. The words had to punch their way out because that's the only way he could express was through battle and battle within him, and the battle within him was somewhat a battle against his genetic structure, his makeup, what had been handed down to him from his father and their beliefs and their traditions, and I think even the words he uses to express himself were battling against that as well, and so I wanted to kind of keep it strained, keep it tight in the voice, yeah.
The other part is that a Chicago journalist who was sitting next to me as we saw Brokeback Mountain, he said to me afterwards that he thought maybe in 10 or maybe 20 years that you would be an ideal candidate to play George W. Bush because of the physiognomy of your... And I was wondering what reaction you had to that.
Don't get me started on that one. Yeah.
Isn't your voice supposed to go down as you get older and register?
The mic to the lady here.
Heath hasn't had a vacation though, so.
Giovanna Grassi, Corriere della Sera, Italy.
She's here.
As you said, the reviews were almost wonderful in Venice, but in a lot of reviews there was a point not so clear. A lot of critics wrote, and this is the question for the two women, that the women in this movie are stereotypes observed by a point of view of the two guys against the women. One is the mother, always in the kitchen, the other is a businesswoman. So I just wanted to know your opinion. Not all, but a lot of reviews wrote the women in the movie are stereotypes.
Did you have the feeling, Michelle, Anne, that you were playing stereotypes?
Perhaps it's a
or
European opinion because they don't know the women in Texas.
or women seen through the eyes of a man?
I mean, obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I certainly never got that feeling. The reaction that I've gotten, I've had people come up to me actually on the film. Diana Osana, the writer, came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, you are this woman that I know." And I've all across the board, if anybody has ever spent any time in Texas, they've come up to me and said, "You got it down, you got the gestures. I know this woman exists, she lives in my town." So, I mean, maybe if you're, I don't agree with what they said. I think the women are.
I don't say. I just
I'm sorry. What some of the reviewers said then. I think the women are very important in the film to provide a counterpoint to the relationship that the two men have, because love exists in so many different ways, and the love that Lorene feels for Jack is not a passionate one. It's a marriage of convenience. They both respect each other, but it's not an overwhelming feeling like the one he has. I think the characters are incredibly important. If you want to stop and think about them as their jobs, I guess, either as a homemaker or as a businesswoman, that's fine. But I think then you're missing the point of the of their emotional service to the story.
There is actually a third woman in the film, and that's the mother. That's the lady who plays your mother. I don't know who the actress is. She was quite remarkable. She has even less dialogue than you have, and tons of things go through. How was it doing that scene with her, where all that you have to do is just silence?
And then she, it was rather sweet. Like from the moment I turned up on set that morning, I remember she just came over and kind of embraced me, and she was naturally trying to find some warmth between us, and on the other hand, Jack Twith's dad, the guy who played his father, he stepped out of the trailer, and he was eyeing me off all morning in the makeup trailer, and then he walked over to me and he said, "I'll see you on the ice." I was like, whoa, okay. And it felt like that when we were working with each other. It was icy. Yeah.
I'm sorry, if I can just say one more thing. Going back to what this gentleman said, I think talking about the women as stereotypes likens calling the movie the gay cowboy movie. It's an oversimplification of a very, very complex, wonderful, beautiful piece of art.
But he said he wouldn't do it again.
Exactly. Well, maybe the other reviewers will change their minds as well.
Okay. Sir?
Paul Clinton, CNN.com. Not to overemphasize the gay porn thing, but since the U.S. politicians are using gay rights as such a battering ram from the conservatives and the religious right in America and the amendment to stop gay marriage in the Constitution. And it's a proven fact that when people know or understand gay people better, they hate less. Are you hoping this movie has an impact since it is such a mainstream movie?
I really think we never went out with any political intentions or any statements whatsoever. If it does have a positive effect, then that's wonderful. But it was never within our intentions whatsoever.
I think that that issue is one of the most important issues today, without a doubt. And I think that this movie definitely does tackle that issue and sheds light on the idea of real love within that issue. And I think that it tends to become politicized, and I think when it's politicized, I think it loses the fundamental idea underneath it, which is that when two people love each other, they love each other, and that they should hold on to it as hard as they can and as strong as they can, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual or whatever your preference might be, And I think we all chose to make this movie because, we believe really vehemently, especially as young people, because we're a part of a generation that's I think has been kind of bombarded by love stories, these ideas that guy gets girl, guy loses girl, guy gets girl again, and we all mimic I'll speak for myself too in this, because I've mimicked, my life and my loves in my life after what I believe to be love from movies and stories I've read and, books I've read that have created stereotypes and have led me to a lot of unhappiness. And I think when you tend to politicize any type of relationship, or you try and dramatize your relationship to make it into something you've seen somewhere else and don't accept the relativity of it, I think it leads you into unhappiness. And I think that that's exactly what this movie is trying to undo.
I'd just say, again, without the political intent, although everything we do is political in that sense. And I'd say rather than as a primary motivation, besides making as great a film as we could with all these talents, not necessarily to teach and preach tolerance and love to intolerant and creepy people, but I also think that maybe there's a lot of young people out there who have never had access to media images that validate their own isolation because of who they are. And so, to me, that audience is a very important one, to be able to kind of be part of a movie that, in fact, gives young folks out there a sense of their own representation in their own lives. I hope that will give them a lot of, spread a little bit of joy out there.
Question to Jake. Heath talked about the way he worked on his voice to indicate the age. What did you do? How did you go about, beside growing a mustache?
You don't know that.
Yeah, I used a mustache and I glued it on every day. That was basically my technique. No, Ing worked with all of us on our voices, and I think what's particularly extraordinary about Heath's performance in the film is that, you watch. I remember talking to him before we started working, and he was saying the way he felt like he was approaching his character was that like the light was too bright for him, and like the sounds were too strong for him, and he was incredibly sensitive, you know, and just in him telling me that, there's voice, and, we worked with a voice coach, and we had a dialect coach there every single day working on, register, and as we aged, our voices changed, and as I aged, I stuck a mustache on my face. But overall, I think what was most interesting to watch in all of it, besides just the voice and the changing, was like realizing somewhere that, this person, I responded to a sense that I knew from Heath, that he really carries his heart on his shoulder, as the character and as a person. And the voices were really secondary. How they aged was really secondary. Like, if this could have been 5 years for these guys, and it could have been a lifetime for these guys, So that was for me the thing that just kept me.
The thing that I don't get about this, as you age, your voice gets lower. I don't know about you. As I age, and maybe it's because I'm a parent, my voice gets higher. It's like, don't touch your sister like that. Like, put that down.
There was one scene where we did the last scene on Brokeback Mountain.
Put that down.
On Brokeback Mountain, when I say all we have is Brokeback Mountain, and before the scene started, we're picking up all these things and carrying them to the truck, and it was the first day we shot, when we were 38, and I remember being really, really, it was really hard to pick things up, and everyone who was in their 40s on set was that's how we've been, when we 80 years old, so for us the interpretation was, it was sort of like speaking another language, but I think we tried our best.
You did it.
Ma'am?
Hi, Anne Hathaway. I'm just wondering whether conditions were difficult in terms of nature. Was the snow a surprise? How tough was it?
Well, the snow actually came as a bit of a surprise, really, wasn't it? And we shot all the scenes in the snow 10 days before the first day shooting. In which, in the scene where Michelle and I were going down on the toboggan, Michelle came off and twisted her knee, and she was pretty much on crutches for the rest of the shoot. So that came as a surprise. Yeah. But the environment itself, it was beautiful out there, and I think it was one of the best things about the experience for us. I think certainly for our characters being out there, it was about letting the environment just chew us up. We wanted to blend in, and so we became products of our environment essentially, and so it was really nice just becoming a rock and kind of blending in. It was beautiful out there.
Yeah, I can't say much more.
Well, you didn't say it in the mic. Go ahead.
No, when we were watching the movie at the screening in Venice, there's a shot of Heath going which always makes me laugh for some reason. I don't know why. And that was the first day of shooting, because we had started shooting when it was still snowing, and I remember all of them chasing after the snow. I didn't have any scenes in the snow, so I was all good, but they were chasing after the snow. Just thinking about them in the snow, it makes me laugh for some reason. I don't know why. A lot of things make me laugh and cry in this movie that wouldn't make you laugh and cry.
The film has taken a certain amount of time to come together in the version that we saw here and that was shown in Venice. Are there scenes of any of you guys that you wish had been kept in the film? All of them. Heath, go ahead.
I can't really remember what's missing, and it was a surprise to me what was in the film. I kind of had forgotten the whole experience. Yeah, I can't really remember. It's pretty much all in there, yeah.
I have to say it's really remarkable that scene for scene, Aang was, and he fell in love. Aang really did fall in love with each performer individually, and then as a kind of collectivity. And so it was probably, as all the films we've done, the one that is most kind of integrally related to the screenplay. All right, come on, spit it, tell the whole class.
No.
Yes.
Well, if I could just say something, sometimes you make movies and you think, okay, this scene is crucial to the plot. Other times you think, okay, it's not so important. And sometimes the scene's just stupid and you pray that it's not going to be in it. With this one, the screenplay was always so beautiful. I don't think there's a scene missing.
We lost, he's pointed out, he's just being silly. We had a scene where these guys were, on one of their Brokeback encounters, ran into some hippies. And it just, I'm sure it'll show up on the collector's DVD, the 2048 version, you know. Yeah.
There was a scene where we were with hippies and there actually were two really brilliant lines at the end of the scene, which were what was it? The hippies were they're un-American. Yeah. And then what was the other one? I don't know.
You had to have been there.
They were really funny, and you had to have been there, and I think that's probably why the scene's not in there anymore.
Question here.
Hi. I guess it's pretty much a question to all the actors. I mean, approaching each film, there's going to be different challenges on every film that you work on. Did any of you find that you had any sort of personal hurdles that you had to overcome in the film, other than the obvious one between Jake and Heath?
I'll start.
I call it pole vaulting more than I would a hurdle.
I had never ridden a horse before the film, and I was playing, a very good barrel racer. So I spent the entire summer kind of learning how to ride. And then when I got there, and when I got back to Calgary, after they'd initially seen me ride, and they were just kind of like up in arms about what to do, I had been doing really well in rehearsals, and then on the day of, I don't know why, but they switched my horse and put me on a horse that I'd never been on, that we didn't get along, and the horse threw me in front of 300 extras. So that kind of sucked. But that was kind of the biggest hurdle for me. But Anne was really nice and cut it, and I had a great stunt horsewoman who was like 15, and she could ride like the wind, and Anne cut it so that I don't look stupid.
Yeah, you look like an amazing
No, she looks amazing. And I take credit. Sure.
Michelle, anything particularly challenging for you in this film?
No, I just feel like I keep learning the same lesson. It's like, it's not the lines that are hard to say because they're your map. It's like the quiet moments that don't exist on the page, but that are, the film is still rolling. That's always just where I keep learning and learning.
I think on that note, I'm afraid our time is up. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here.